Hello, AP Stat Nerds. It's time to figure out how our calculator can help us with this statistical data. So we're on day 4 after the quiz practice on page 17. So page 17. And we're looking at, what are we looking at? We're looking at gas prices the second week of August and the second week of September. And we'd like to know some some statistics on this data. And what we're going to be asked to do today, let's see, I can get it to move for me. We're going to be asked to, that's not working. Number 1, we have to enter the data into the calculator. And I don't know if you've done that or not. And so I'm going to show you how to do that. And then we have to create histograms and box plots of the data and then put them on your paper. And then we're going to talk about how do we find this statistical information about the data. So that's what we're going to do today, those 3 things. So let's start by getting that data in a list. So I'm using a TI-84. If you're using something different, you're going to have to kind of figure that out. But that's what I'll be using today. All right. So, oh goodness. You didn't want to see all that, did you? And so here's the 84. And let me just do second quit so we can start together. So how do you input your list of data into the calculator? So we're going to hit Stat and Edit. And Edit allows us to put things into the list. So notice I've already put my information into the list. So in L1, I just typed in the values of the gasoline. Then I go right over to L2. And that is all of the gasolines. If you do not have these 2 lists, if they're not on your calculator, you might have to go to Stat, Setup Editor, that's 5, Stat, and go to 5, and hit Enter, and it will put all of your lists back in, and then go to Stat Edit, and your L1 and L2 will be there, and you can input that data. So I'm going to pause, and you pause. We're going to pause together, and you're going to put in your data, and we'll come back and talk about it. All right, one of the things that you need to do when you're working with data like this is to make sure you put in all of your data points. As I put mine in, I put my finger on them and move my finger down so I don't forget any. I'm so crazy, aren't I? But let's see here. Okay, that's what I wanted to do. Notice that this number down here is 17. That should be and it's on the last number, that should mean how many data points you have. So make sure that you count, August is L1, make sure you count and that there are 17, and there are. That's good. And in L2, the last thing in the list is 15. So make sure there are 15 entries for September for the gas prices, and there are. And you just want to kind of make sure there's nothing glaring at you like you didn't miss the dollar or something. And it all looks okay. It looks fine. Doesn't look anything crazy. If we don't come up with the right answers in a minute, we'll know we have to go back and check. But those are the things that I just check automatically. Did I put the right number of data points in? And is there anything that looks really goofy before I begin? Okay, so that was number 1, to enter the data, and we've done that. Number 2 says to create a histogram and box plot of the data in your calculator. So I'm already set up to do box plots, so I'm going to go ahead and do that one first because I've already worked on this and kind of have it set up ready to go. So how do you do a box plot? Do you see above y equals? It says stat plot. That's what you're going to need to access. So we're going to hit second because it's blue, and y equals. And these are the different kind of plots you can do. All right, let's go look and see. I've already got them set up to go, but I want us to look and see. So there are different types. You can do a scatter plot or a scatter plot connected. There's your sweet histogram. This is a box plot, and the reason there's 2 actual box plots. And I know that you probably haven't seen this, but we haven't done this before, but I'm sure you've seen them. And this one, remember when we talked about the outliers, the points that were way away from the other points? If there is an outlier, it will actually show you in this one. So we're going to use that one. And this is some interesting graph that we're not going to use for a little bit. So don't worry about that last one. So notice that August is blue. And then if I do second stat plot, I can go down to plot 2. And if you look at the information here, this tells me that plot 2 is on. See the on right there. And it also tells me I'm doing a box plot with outliers. And L2 is the data it's going to use. So I like that. So I really don't have to go into that menu. I can. If I hit enter, it just lets me make changes. But plot 2 is fine with me the way it is. So it is on. I don't know if plot 1 is on. Let me go make sure. So notice how I went up there. Now it's flashing on it. If I hit enter, it'll turn it on. Oh, it just shows me what it is. Okay, there we go. Huh. So, and it's on, so we're good. All right. So now I need to consider my window. So the smallest amount of gas price is $2.79, and that's in September. And so I chose a minimum of 2.7. You want something a little under your smallest value for your range for this. And then your X max, your highest price is $3.35. So I chose $3.40. You want a little below and a little above. Not too much, but just a little bit. And I just chose a scale of 0.1. If I don't like that, I can change that in a little bit. And the Y value is actually going to be where the box plots are located. So I just did a -1 to 15 window. The -1 lets you see the x-axis, or your horizontal axis. And 15 is just so it's big enough that 2 plots can get on the same screen, because they're going to plot both of them. Okay? So hopefully you have your window in, you have your data points in, and you have your plots turned on. If so, if we hit graph, we should see both of our plots. So wow, that's really cool, what we can see. And so I just want you to make a picture of this. So, how can we know what these things are? Well, let me go back to my window. It starts at 2.7 and I go every 0.1, so every 10 cents. So I know this is 2.7, that's 2.8, $2.90, $3, $3.10, $3.20, $3.30, and $3.40. So if you want to label that bottom so you can kind of figure out what that is. And then I'd like for you to draw this picture as best you can, and kind of just make an estimate for what you think these points are. If you'd actually like to find out where this line ends, you can actually hit trace. And notice it went on the blue box. I don't want it there. I want it on the red box, the red box plot. And so I can actually, if you toggle down, you get on the red one. And then I can toggle over and see actually what these values are. So there is, the minimum is $2.79. So if you kind of want to know where to put that. And then I know you don't know what this is yet, the Q1, and that's all right. We're going to talk about it. But that's the outside of this box. And so if you want to draw your box, you kind of need to know where that ends. That's something called the median, and I bet you have heard of the median before, that it's the price that's in the middle of all the prices if we put them in order. And then the other side of the box is going to be end on 311, and then the little end there is on 315. So you can transfer these pictures onto your paper, and you might want to label what those points are as you trace. You might want to put that on there somewhere just so you know. And you can do the same thing if I guess I went down. If you go up and down, it goes from box plot to box plot. And then if you go right to left, then it goes to the different parts of the box plot. So you might just want to label what they are. So when we do figure out what all this stuff is, we can talk about it. Oops. Ooh, look, there's that outlier of 335. So that guy's way far away from the other prices. So stop a moment and jot those pictures down and label your different numbers. Okay, now that you've copied down your pictures onto your paper of your box plots, let's look at a histogram of this. So let's second y equals, so stat plot. And now I'm going to hit enter. And I'm going to go down and to the right until I come to the histogram and hit enter. And I'm going to do the same thing for plot 2. So second y equals. I'm going to go down to the second plot. Whoops, a little too far. And I'm going to go down and over and hit enter. Now let's think about our window. The window that we had before was set up to be the min and max of our cost. And so I'm going to hit graph and see if it works. And if it doesn't, I'll fix it. How about that? Maybe too much, huh? Well, that looks pretty good to me. I can't see very much about the blue. I don't know if they're over each other or not. Let's do this. I'm going to go turn off one of them and kind of see. And I do think I'd like both of them. I'm going to turn the first one off. All right, so that's August is off. So now let me hit graph. So that's the red graph of September. And that's where we got our min, so there's more value to the left of this graph, but still most of the prices are higher in this and they are lower. So this would be skewed left, but they're there. And I do think that the blue ones may have been like directly on top, and I don't know how you do that, but let's go figure it out. So let me go turn this guy back on, the blue guy on, just by hitting enter and moving. And then if I hit graph, no, you can see both of them, I think. Well, I don't know. Let's go turn the red one off. Let's do that. Goodness gracious, I didn't do that right. Let's go turn the red one off. Enter. Go to the right to turn it off. And now hit graph. And so there's your blue graph. So there are no values past there. So we really could see both graphs at one time, and they didn't overshadow each other. I couldn't kind of get a feel for the whole graph there. And that's it. That's kind of strange. Wow. Okay. So this guy he's almost symmetrical in a way. That's crazy. And this is the August one. There's not a lot of variance in this. So I'm going to go back and hit graph again. I'm going to go back and, turn both of those on again so I can see them. Oh man, I didn't mean to do that. Sorry, y'all. Just hit one button wrong and you're done. I know, got to be patient. So just turn that back on and hit graph. And so the blue one really is, that's it. It was just that really large frequency here. Let me see how much that is. That's 270, 280, 290, 310, 320. So there's a lot of values between 310 and 320 for that. I wonder what would happen if we change this. I'm going to get a little crazy. You can go with me or not. I just want to look at something. What would happen if we changed our bin width to 0.05? Like if we changed it every 5 cents instead of every 10 cents. Because that's what we did by changing that scale to 0.1. That was making our bins 10 cents. What would happen if it's 5 cents? And what if it looked any differently? Hey, let's check that out, shall we? And we hit graph. Wow. That looks a little different. I think you get more knowledge about your data there if you change your bin width. And you don't want to change it too much, but that gets a little bit different graph. But, I'm always curious about stuff like that. All right, so you don't have to jot that down. I just wanted to show you that if you do change the bin width, so your X scale is your bin width. Say that again. I can't draw on this or I would. Your X scale is your bin width. So let me go back to window. Your X scale, that's what I call that. XCL, your X scale, that's your bin width. So how you determine your bin width is with your X scale. Okay? So now every tick mark, like it starts at 270 and then the next tick mark is 275 and then 280 and then 285 instead of every 10 cents. That's so cool. All right, so with answer number 2, you put your pictures down. I hope. If not, make sure you stop, go back to your graph, and make a picture of that, okay? Make sure you stop and do that. All right, going to number 3. It asks you to do the 1 var stats. And I guess we have 2 1 var stats, so we'll do the first one first. Second one second. So how do you find that? Let's go to the stat button. Let's start there. What do I want to do? Think I want to calculate something? There it is. So let's go back to that and go to second quit so I can show you again. Stat, calc. You want to calculate a 1 variable statistic. That's what that means, okay? And so when you hit 1 or enter, it asks you, where do you want me to pull the data from? And I'm actually going to do L1. And look, all of the numbers have an L, that number above it, and they're all blue. So if I want L1 there, instead of that, I'm going to do second 1. There's also a shortcut key. I don't know where it is. Let me see. Alpha trace, is that it? No, that is not it. Alpha graph, is that it? Nope, that's not it. Alpha, I thought we had a shortcut thing. We do not have a shortcut thing for that. So I didn't mean to lie. I just did. Yeah, 1 minute. Make sure. Okay, that's not it. Alpha, zoom, that's not it. Alpha, that's not it. Alpha. So there's not a shortcut key for that. Well, you don't really need one. So if you just do your second whatever, so let me go back. All right, so I'm going to do stat, calc, enter, because I'm on 1. And I want that to be L1, so I do second 1. Okay, the frequency list, if you do have a frequency that goes with that, normally you do not, so I just skip it and go down to calculate and hit enter. So you're now going to write down these statistical things down on your paper. So this guy with a little bar above it is the mean. So write this down for the mean. I normally do correct to 3 decimal places, so I'd write 3.15. The standard deviation is going to be this one right here. So that's 0.06 with a little, that's your population standard deviation. So you're going to want 0.06. Then if you go down in your menu, you get the rest of it. And y'all, I know you may not know what all this means, but we're just trying to figure out where things are so that when we find out how to apply them, we know how to go get them. Okay? It's okay. And then the minimum is 3.08 and the Q1. I want to tell you what that means. That means the first quartile. And we're going to break that down more tomorrow, but just know that's what that means. First quartile is that number. And then your median, I bet you can guess what that means. That's your third quartile. Very good. And there's your max. And then if you go do the same thing for L2, so let's say I do that. I want a stat thing. I want to calculate something. And I have 1 variables. I know I have 2 sets of 1 variables, but I only have 1 variables. And you'll find out what two variables do later. But so I want L2 now. So L2. So that's second 2. And then we'll go down and calculate. And then if you'll write those numbers down, so for your mean for, that's September, I think. There's your mean. There's your mean. Woo, I didn't mean to move that. Sorry, y'all. There's your mean. There's your population standard deviation because you used all your points. So 0.096. And then if you'll continue to go down to find your min and Q1 median, Q3, and your max. Okay, so that's how you go find all those. Tomorrow we're going to talk about what they mean about data. So we filled out our little thing for the calculator, so you kind of know how to do some things. And tomorrow we're going to fill in some of the blanks about what those things mean. Hope this has helped. Thanks so much. Bye-bye.